get ready for the weirdest tagline. Who can sleep with brows on the prowl? Welcome to I Hope You Suffer.
I'm gonna be honest, y'all. The more I think about it, the more I hate this movie. It's not even bad. It was just.
It was
not funny. It was trying so hard to be funny, and it wasn't.
We'll get into it, but I was so mad the minute I realized it was like that Where's Skeeto movie we did, where it's like a director whose entire thing is like, I make movies like it's the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very much like, what I took from it was like a 70s sitcom where it's like all the wives are wearing like, house dresses and red lipstick, and one of them even is like kind of transatlantic talky singing for whatever reason. And it's like, what was that one we watched with like the meat where they had to eat that meatball?
What?
It was like a giant meat loaf.
I think you're thinking of something else.
Oh, no. Oh, I have the vaguest recollection of what you're talking about, but I don't remember the name of it. Or what even it was
Manwich? Maybe it was a Manwich?
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
Inhumanwich.
Okay, there you go. It was like that, where it's like all of the dialogue is like they're like over-explaining things to each other, or they'll just like say the same thing over and over again in different ways, and
it's all like happy-go-lucky deliveries, like
right, yeah.
Well, so this is episode 270. We're finally watching Trail of the Screaming Forehead.
Yeah, we should probably tell people what they are.
Like Larry Blaymore. I
wish it had been a trial. If it had been a trial of the Screaming Forehead.
If this was just like this dude's giant head, but like
courtroom procedural.
Like the director's other movies, like it's The Lost Skeleton Returns Again, and what is this one? The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra. Like
Dark and Stormy Night.
They all have like these posters.
Boner Dave comes home.
That are like very much like those like late 50s like Mystery Science Theater 3000 style movies. And I get the feeling that he's very much on par with like whoever the director was of Where's Skeeto, where like their entire gimmick is like, I make these like modern versions of those like goofy old drive-in movies.
Yep.
And so like when it started, I was like, all right, like fine, I get the premise. Maybe it'll be kind of funny. And I feel like the only thing
it wasn't.
The only thing in it that was like remotely ever funny was like maybe the woman who works with Nick in the bar.
Droxy.
Yeah. that was like it. The forehead design, pretty good though. That's about it.
Oh, I saw in the credits that the Chiodos brothers were credited.
Yeah, like,
and I was like, okay,
the premise I was on board with. The fucking foreheads crawling around, I was like, this rocks. This is a good joke. But yeah, like it's like they take it too earnestly in like what like the joke, and like trying to make it seem like a joke but also seem like completely serious, and I think it didn't really work on like either level.
Yeah. I'm gonna be really honest. I am under duress, and I feel like if I watched this movie normal, I would have found it to be very funny, like me personally. But this was just not the mood for me, so I don't really know how I feel about it, because I feel like their dialogue is usually my kind of humor, but I just was like, I just need to get through this, and there's like fucking slabs of meat. My other problem is, spoilers, there's one piece of forehead that has eyes and talks.
One piece of forehead.
And I feel like if they all, like, that to me I found funny, right? But it's only one guy, and it only happens like twice, and I'm like, I don't really understand. And then so it's like to have this like forehead thing happening as well as big forehead like there's two different forehead things happening in this movie. And I feel like it's not necessary. I was going to say,
head,
if you,
to be honest,
if you, actually, yes. If you want to die, take a shot every time I say forehead, because you will.
I
don't know.
I feel like there were maybe like 4 lines throughout the entire movie that I kind of
forehead lines.
Yeah, forehead lines.
Oh,
that I like
shit.
kind of chuckled at, but it was never anything that I was like, oh, this is like actually funny. It was more like, oh, that's clever, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like some of the interactions with like the 2 sailors, like every once in a while would have like some interaction where I'm like, all right, that's kind of clever, but like, yeah, like
I didn't understand the sailors because they would like say something to each other and then they would always laugh. He'd be like, "You old sea dog, ha 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 ha."
Yeah,
and
that's
I'm like,
how
I
sailors
don't get it.
act.
They never sailed at all.
No, they didn't actually.
So many lies.
The sequel we find out is they're actually serial killers just moving town to town.
Perfect. I'd watch that movie. I will also say,
Directed
like,
by Ryan Murphy.
Oh my god. Oh Jesus, no, please. I did like Millie, who was the librarian. I liked her. I thought she was pretty funny. And obviously Daniel Roebuck, even though he doesn't really do a lot. Always happy to see him. I didn't really recognize anybody else, but
Dick Miller was the bartender.
Yeah. The only character I liked
yeah.
was Dick Miller showing up for 48 seconds
to
be like, oh, that's weird.
The director played Nick.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, like, he had, like, some lines every once in a while that, like, were okay on, like, the comedy scale. But for the most part, like, because he would just say shit that made, like, no sense when, like, Droxy would say something to him.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, like, yeah, overall, I was kind of like, this, I don't know, fine. It's not, like,
fine.
egregiously bad. It's just, like, I was not... I legitimately, based on that poster, number one, didn't realize it was like 2008 when it came out. Because, like, the poster for it, I was like, oh, this is probably like a 90s movie. And then, like, it started playing, and I was like, oh, this seems very current. And I was, like, looking at it. And then I realized that it was that, like, spoof 50s style movie or whatever. And I was like, no.
Much better spoof 50 styles movie with screaming in the title. Man with a Screaming Brain, starring Bruce Campbell.
Yeah. You could watch Bruce Campbell just run around fucking Ukraine or whatever, screaming, and just Ted Raimi constantly talking.
Sounds good to me.
Cinema.
Alright, sounds like everybody had a bad time with this one. What a movie to wait like 5 weeks to watch.
I was gonna say,
It's made me anti-forehead, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd get mine removed.
Yeah, I'm collapsing mine.
Honestly, what a weird...
Although, I do think they're onto something, that everyone's thoughts and all that
stored in the forehead.
Come from the forehead, not the brain.
Yeah, definitely.
What a good idea. That is a good idea.
Yeah.
Right. And it makes me mad that it just... Like, they wasted it. They just didn't make it funny. They're just like... Even the way they present the idea in the movie, like, it's not funny in the movie, which is shocking to me.
Yeah.
Because someone being like, no, all your thoughts are stored in your forehead. It's the key to the whole thing. Like, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, like, I think there's, like, a good premise here. I think if this was just made as, like, a straight-up, like, serious B-movie instead of, like, this spoof of, like, old movies or whatever... it'd be a better idea. But yeah, it's very, very baffling that it's like the Chiodos brothers did like the special effects, and then fucking like I can't remember who it was at the beginning that does the theme song. It was like Manhattan Transfer, maybe. Like there's somehow like big names.
Danny Elfman.
Yeah.
I would. That would have been ridiculous.
It was just, I don't know, like when it first started, I was like, oh, there's like some big names going on here. And then, like, I don't know. I think once you get past Daniel Roebuck getting foreheaded.
Yeah, that's what I went with.
I was like, oh, this is like one of those movies. Never mind.
Yeah, as soon as it opened and Daniel Roebuck and whoever his wife was, Sarah, are talking and kind of like transatlantic-y, I was like, no, this is not going to be great.
What I was kind of hoping when it first started, I was like, oh, like maybe this is going to be like a John Waters style like B movie where it's like somebody making this like goofy like quote unquote horror movie about whatever is going to happen with the forehead, but it's going to be that sort of like where all of John Waters' characters feel like they're like straight out of like Leave It to Beaver, but they're like fucked up.
Right.
And so like when like you get that intro or whatever with Daniel Roebuck, I was like, oh, this might be kind of interesting. And then you like start getting into what the actual premise of the movie is, and I was like, nope, never mind.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm a little bummed because I feel like I would have liked this movie under different circumstances, but overall not the best. Like we probably could have just put it off indefinitely. It would have been fine
forever.
But to your credit, like we did think it was Trial, and I want to see whatever that movie would have been.
See, that's what the sequel should be.
Yeah, put him on trial.
It should just be one of the foreheads just sitting on a chair getting yelled at by somebody.
Yeah.
It would have been such a good bit every single week. We're like, next week, Trail of the Screaming Forehead, and then we just did a different movie.
That's what we said,
just
like, at the end of our Q&A. I was like, we should just always say that, and then no one will ever know what the next movie is, because it won't ever be that.
I really thought what was going to happen is, like, yesterday we would have went to Tubi and it was gone.
Yeah.
If only.
Yeah. I do have to also say, like, this guy, the forehead guy that's like got 5 or 6 heads, he kind of actually looks more like a thumb or a toe to me.
He looks like the worm from Freaked.
Yeah.
I like when for some reason when you like Google this movie under like Google Images, a bunch of like Redbubble.
Oh no.
Oh wait, no. Where'd it go? I saw it yesterday. I was trying to find something for it. Maybe it wasn't under Google Images. Oh yeah, here we go. Like some store that's like I don't know, for some reason titled Trail of the Screaming Forehead, but it's the Heidi Klum worm picture, and it just says I'd still love you if you were a worm.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're all titled Trail of the Screaming Forehead, but there's like 10 of those fucking like rip-off t-shirt stores with that same shirt. So what I'm saying, we just rip off that shirt, but we just put this dude's face on it instead.
Okay.
I'm in.
It's
I still love you if you were an I Hope You Suffer co-host.
Oh, perfect. Wow. Okay. Well, this movie starts by showing us a cute Victorian house that we find out is an inn. And we meet a husband and wife who are Sarah and
Longhead Bay.
Longhead, yeah. I think you find that out when the sailors show up. Oh no, maybe I don't. Whatever, it's an inn. You meet Sarah and Amos. Amos is Daniel Roebuck. Sarah is
Sarah.
Yeah, her headshot is from this movie, I think. So she loves it. Oh, she's in like all of these movies.
Yeah, I'm assuming she's somebody that is maybe related or something to the director.
Yeah,
because like almost all the rest of the cast has like real credits. Like,
yeah, like the Doctor was in all these movies, but she was also in Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah, she's in Vice, like the
Quick
Jim
and the Dead,
Carrey, A Christmas Carol, 50 Shades of Grey.
Wow.
Cops and Robertsons with Chevy Chase.
Oh, Chevy. Okay, and she's sending him out to go to the store, and she said, "Don't forget the bread for the sandwiches." And I was like, "Don't worry, honey." And
oh my
so
God, Katie's gonna fucking lose her voice this episode.
they mostly don't all talk like that. It is more of like a
That's
sitcom.
a lie. That's every single person.
Roxy to me definitely sounds like that. She's got a very like I don't know. She's just got that look to her. And so he sets off. There's a whoosh in the sky, and he wonders if something's been lost by someone. Is what he says as he's looking at like a spaceship, and then a slab of forehead comes out of the ship and like squelches like. They move like worms, but they are literally picture a slab of a forehead. Like I don't like that's literally what it is.
So
slab of forehead.
The best part of the movie is just the design of these fucking foreheads.
Yeah, and fleshy forehead, and it growls at him, and then he screams, and it like cuts away or whatever, and then we've got their theme. It's got its own theme song, which I thought was fun. And it is kind of like a sitcom-y, like a early sitcom-y kind of song sounding. And there's like weird cartoon foreheads of all shapes and sizes. Even though all the foreheads in the movie are just like white foreheads, but you know.
Well, it's because there's like nobody but white people in this town.
Fair.
There's a town in Texas called White Settlement. It was giving me White Settlement vibes.
Yeah.
Seeing this town.
Fair.
Sounds like Texas.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, so this is when we meet Sheila, who is a scientist, and she is giving a presentation about how she thinks that the forehead, not the brain, holds all of the human's knowledge. And she's like giving it to this like room of people, but she's got like Philip, who is like a fellow scientist, and then Applethorpe, who I don't know is like also a scientist, and he says that he thinks that she's insane and wrong. So like some of the lines I found to be very funny. She's like, "Oh, what do you think about my hypothesis?" And he was like, "I think you sound insane and wrong." And I was like, "Haha."
Yeah, goddamn idiot.
I feel like maybe it's because that sounds like something. Some of the things that they said sounds like the things that I make up of people saying when I'm like going through my notes, and then I'll be like, you know how I said that Dracula said Batman was like, "Be my king." You know, he didn't really say that, but like that's the kind of yeah, that's the kind of thing that I feel like a lot of these lines were things that like I would make up somebody said. So maybe that's why I found it funny.
There are some lines that I was like, I said, like I was like, okay, that's kind of clever, or it would just be like a stupid enough reaction to something, but like I don't know, nothing that I found like overly funny. More of that just like kind of like thing, and I like mostly it was I feel like just the sailors for me. Yeah.
So he tells her essentially that like she's insane and wrong.
I take it back. When we get to the reveal of the hats they wear, that was pretty good.
And she's basically just like, they have this like back and forth where she basically was like, would you think it was insane and wrong if a man told you this? And he's like, no, because she keeps saying like, is it because I'm a woman? He's like, no, if a man, and he says like, no, if a man told me that, I would also think he was insane and wrong.
What if that man was a woman?
But what if that man was a woman? Whatever. What if, yeah. And so like, it's just like stupid back and forth like that. And then he's essentially like, I want you to resign, and then I want you to get out of here. Like, as if those aren't really the same thing. And she's like upset, obviously. And Philip comes over to offer to help her keep doing her, like, to prove her theory in order for her to not have to resign. And she's just like, oh, I really appreciate that, but I don't want to take you away from your work. And he's like, well, his research was that he was trying to figure out the connection between the brain and the lips. And he said, there is none. They just move on their own. Okay.
Correct.
So
that's actual science.
Yes.
Makes sense.
So we meet Dutch and Dan, who are two sailors. They get off a boat in Longhead Bay, and I just wrote, I don't understand their jokes. They kept saying, like, not as quiet as some ports we've been to, ha ha ha. And I was like, I don't understand. I don't get the jokes between them. They are just, like, saying jokes
They're all
and laughing.
inside jokes. But...
Right. And I was just like, huh? they're gonna come stay in the town, right? Applethorpe is staying at Sarah and Amos's inn, and he is mean to Millie, who is the librarian, essentially calling her stupid, because she says that she thinks that having a job in science would be hard because you have to think all those thoughts.
Correct.
Fair. I mean,
Agreed.
it's fair. Yeah, and then he's like, well, you're like, I could see how that would be like, how you would think that it was hard since you don't have to think of any thoughts. And she's like, you're right. I don't have to think any thoughts because other people write the books and I don't have to do it. And I was like, okay. He's mean to her. They're there like having lunch or whatever. And Sarah is like, sorry, my husband went to the store and he never came back. I had to make soup. Here you go. They're eating at the inn for some reason. Though I guess they also are staying there, even though like Millie is the town librarian, but maybe she also lives at the inn. I don't know.
Yeah,
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
I was very confused about like who lives at this inn.
Yeah.
Town library inn.
Ooh, got him. This is when Amos finally comes back, and you can very clearly see that he has a slab of forehead on his forehead.
That's what I mean. Like, the design is very funny.
And also because nobody seems to notice something is amiss with him. Like, they don't seem to see that he's got a second forehead. And
it's a weird
like
lump of meat sitting on top of his normal forehead.
After he's
that's
been
much
missing.
wrinklier.
Right. And he's just like acting a little weird. The thing that I like don't totally understand about these foreheads is that they seem to be very dumb. Like they are just, I don't know. They just don't offer much, I guess.
They're not as evolved as the human forehead.
Sure.
That makes sense.
Dan and Dutch they're the sailors, come to check into the inn, and they talk to Sarah. Amos just continues to be weird. Like, essentially, they're basically like, Amos is so funny. He tells all these funny jokes, like, tell the funny jokes. And he's just, like, sitting there kind of, like, slack-jawed. He's like, somebody went somewhere and did something, or something like that. And they're like, this is no fine, I guess. I mean, Dan and Dutch don't know him, so maybe, I don't know.
This whole movie is just people telling inside jokes to each other.
Like, pretty much.
What?
Okay, so Philip, there's a lot of scenes where Philip is just, like, in his kitchen talking to his wife, and he basically is, like, talking to her about, like, his work or whatever, and she basically, like, asks, like, I don't know, don't you think we probably do think from our brain? And he says that she's silly for thinking that. That night, Amos brings Sarah out to the shed, where he has a forehead in a shoebox, and she gets foreheaded. Oh my god. Sheila, who's the scientist, is talking to Philip about this breakthrough that she's had. She has discovered the forehead... Oh my god, I can't even say this.
Is that what it was?
No, foreheadinal gland.
Oh.
That is in your head that excretes something called foreheadazine. And she thinks that if they could get a hold of enough foreheadazine and inject it into somebody else and prove that it makes them stronger, or I mean, not stronger, well, brain more strong.
Yeah,
smarter.
More strong.
Brain stronger.
Then she can prove that people actually think with their foreheads. And then they are like really turned on by science, and they like kiss and stuff, and he's like, oh no, and she's like, oh, I just can't help myself, I love you. Well, she's like British sometimes, I don't know. So they kiss or whatever, and she's like really into him. She basically says that he is going to be the first foreheadally expanded human. Very cool.
I chuckled at that. That's a good combination of words.
That's what I mean. It's like, we keep saying, it's like, there's like good ideas here, but it's like, I don't know, they just...
All the execution's bad.
I literally think if this was something along the lines of, like you said, like Man with the Screaming Brain or whatever, I think
just throw Bruce Campbell in this.
Yeah, no shit. How's Bruce
make this a Ted Raimi joint?
Bruce Campbell would have been perfect in this.
I also, like I said,
he could have
want
just
the
been the voice of that forehead that talks.
Yeah, anything. The foreheads could have looked like him.
Oh man, Bruce Campbell, Jeffrey Combs,
Yes.
Perfect
Oh my.
film.
Yes. Yeah. All right.
Here
We've
we-
turned the ship around.
This is okay. So if we got both of them in it, we just do Trail of the Screaming Chin.
Oh, okay.
We're on.
We're really cooking now.
trademark. I hope you suffer.
And then Trail of the Screaming Jeffrey, his
Mustache.
mustache, yeah.
All right, we gotta get these written before they die.
Well, now that we mentioned them, that's gonna be next week. So
No, please, we can't take any more.
the end. The forehead.
I'm
leave.
just like now.
That was it.
Like,
Foreheadily expanded. The end.
The end. I'm just now like picturing that little forehead with like Bruce Campbell's like crazy eyes and like his. Yeah. Okay.
You could even take like the design of this dude's massive forehead and just put it on like the bottom of his head for the chin.
Yeah. Gross. Okay, so Dutch goes to visit Millie at the library because they kind of hint that they're like flirty with each other or whatever. And she says that she's been really surprised because there's this one scene, I don't think it's this one, but where Dutch is like talking to her at the library and she's just like, whatever, I do whatever I want. I'm the librarian. I can be loud if I want. And then she goes, oh, and she screams really loud, and that made me laugh really hard. Like, I genuinely
Just like a
liked
forehead.
Millie. Yeah, I thought she was funny. She worked for me. She was always like, I brought sandwiches. Does anyone want one? She's like always trying to get people to eat sandwiches. I love that. And
You just wanted
Millie,
a sandwich.
I still do. I haven't had one yet. And Millie says that it's really weird because that's the 5th book about foreheads people have checked out today. She's like, I bet you didn't know there was more than one
That's
book about
true.
foreheads. Yeah, I didn't either.
I had no idea.
This is when. Okay, I didn't know their names for a long time. This is Doxy and Nick at a bar. They are
What are they?
They're talking. I don't know. They were talking about, like, you get the idea that Nick is always coming up with schemes to make money, and I have no idea what they were talking about because he's just like, yeah, my next idea, shopping carts. And she's like, what? And he's like, all I'm saying is you can take one shopping cart and paint it to look like another shopping cart. And she's like, for real this time? And I was like, huh? What is happening? I didn't understand anything of their conversation, but we just meet them essentially. Then Dan comes into the bar, who is. Just threw my pen.
In anger.
Yeah.
Ah, goddamn forehead.
Dan is what was his name?
Dan.
Big Dan Freighter. They kept calling him. Oh, because he's a boat captain, a freighter.
Yeah, it's
I get it.
Big Dan in the Swede or something like that.
Yeah, I didn't.
Big Dan Frigate.
I didn't care for whatever that meant. So Dan comes in to wet his whistle, so to speak, and he's talking about how the thing that he's hauling on his boats is medical cadavers, but the boat broke down, and so they're storing the cadavers in like a warehouse. And Doxy says, boy, you can't get deader than that. And I was like, I like that. You can't get deader than a dead body.
I like this movie.
Maybe I'm saying I think I would have. Dutch and Dan then go back to the inn to eat dinner, and Sarah basically says that they're gonna have to wait a little bit because the dining room is closed for repairs. They're like, that's kind of weird. Dan peeks behind the curtain and sees Amos and Applethorpe rubbing their foreheads together, and the subtitle said warbling growls and forehead roars. So
what do you think this rubbing foreheads thing is all about? Is this a sexual thing?
Sex. Yes, I do.
Like, are the
I do.
foreheads just kissing?
Yes.
What if the foreheads get pregnant?
Because they never
You get,
explain
Well,
it.
that's
Like,
what
it's
I'm
just
wondering.
they're rubbing foreheads, but it's never any sort of like explanation as to why.
Well, because think about it. In the beginning,
Horny
we saw
foreheads.
I don't want to
spaceship.
think about it. I will get too horny.
I'm a forehead guy.
Yeah.
You only see like one. I don't know. Maybe they are reproducing to take over the town. We only see that one come out of the spaceship, so I'm just like not sure. But something was going on here. Man, you would be in a bad position because everyone's forehead's out.
Oh no, there's an Instagram account that's at forehead fetish lovers.
No.
Wow, I've never heard Kit raise his voice that much in my life.
I'm so upset about this. Why?
Do you want to look at an article from 2009 called "Fetish Friday: Our Favorite Women with Big Foreheads"?
No.
Is that what it is? Like it's just a big forehead thing?
There's a Reddit. I have an obscure sexual fetish, such as this word I can't pronounce, an attraction to facial wrinkles. Ask me anything.
I was about to ask if it's like a thing where you're really into super smooth foreheads or really wrinkly foreheads.
No. Someone asked like one of those like question websites, why does my boyfriend touch my forehead so much?
Oh no.
Okay.
You might have a forehead fetish. Fetish, a form of sexual desire, blah, blah, blah. You might have heard about foot fetish. Sometimes, like, okay, this is just insane.
I'm sorry. I did not imagine that was actually a thing. I'm really...
Never would have guessed.
I'm really, like, not in the mood set of, like, kink-shaming people, but what? Like...
There's a lot of, like... Reddit and like Twitter posts coming up under this Google search about forehead fetish.
Also, how do you like figure out
you're attracted to foreheads?
Yeah,
probably this movie.
Yeah,
I gotta say, convenient that all of these articles are post 2008.
Oh, because I mean, like,
this is the conspiracy theory I believe.
It spawned, yeah, spawned a whole kink.
Like, do you just wake up one day and you're like, man, I'm really into elbows?
Oh my god.
Rub the elbow on me.
Forehead fetish Instagram account is upsetting.
Really strange. Well, so the answer in this movie, they're at least into smooth foreheads, not wrinkles. So I don't know. Guess there's all kinds of preferences. What do you do? Like, I just don't.
You don't want the answer to what you're about to ask.
No.
Because I got one. Like, you just don't want it.
I'm not comprehending, and I don't want it.
Tell me.
Actually.
I need the answer. I need so many answers.
Well, you gotta wait for the forehead to come off, like in this movie. And you just wrap it around, go to town.
Oh no. Oh man.
Oh no.
All right. Why?
I told you. Then the foreheads leave, and then end the movie.
Yeah.
Yep, it's over. No one's horny anymore.
They Googled. The foreheads took out a book about forehead fetishes, and we're like, we gotta get out of here.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well. So.
You never know what you're gonna come across recording this show.
It's very true. Anyone who ever hits play on an episode can really never know what's going to happen. So Dutch had seen this happening and goes to ask Dan, like, have you ever seen grown men touching foreheads? And Dan goes on to describe some, like, different sort of, like, rituals with foreheads, but no, he's never seen two men touching foreheads before.
Way better opportunity for a better joke, and you could have just ripped off The Simpsons, where, like, Hank Scorpio throws his shoes out the door, and he's like, you ever seen a man throw his shoes away? And Homer goes, haha, yeah, once. Should have just did that joke.
Yeah. So the two sailors go to talk to Millie, because for no reason at all, out of literally nowhere, Dan is like, perhaps it's because we've been nosing around in space, and now space is nosing around here. Their foreheads, so I feel like there's a better joke there, but...
Do they ever give any sort of like idea of when this movie takes place? Like, is this supposed to be like modern times, or is this supposed to be like the 50s and 60s?
There's payphones and no other technology to date it, so I am kind of wondering if this is supposed. But then
It would make sense if it was
don't
supposed to
know.
be like maybe like the early 60s, because
Right.
we would have been doing space travel shit.
In forehead research.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah, obviously.
So yeah, I don't know. This is what. So they're just like talking about this, and this is when a forehead comes out of the bushes. But Dan just beats it with a stick.
Smart.
Incredible imagery.
I'm gonna say I feel as if like sure, if you were just like minding your own business, you probably are not expecting a piece of forehead to attack you. But these three encounter a lot of foreheads and are very easily dispatched of them. So I feel like
I mean, it's the same. Like all I could think is like, you know, how people were just like, oh, child's play, it'd be easy, just kick that like doll across the street.
Yeah.
But like, these are literally like the size of like a chicken breast.
yeah,
Like,
fair visual comparison.
you can
also.
very easily get away from them.
Just like stomp
They don't
on
move
it.
very fast.
Yeah.
Like,
No. And then they like leave or whatever. Meanwhile, Sheila is finally going to inject Philip with the foreheadazine, and she goes, "Oh, I can't do it like this,
Take it
or I
in
can't.
pill form.
I'll do it in pill form
That's
instead," and gives him a pill.
Kind of funny.
Yeah.
There were like a
Um,
couple things in this movie that were like those like sort of dumb fake out jokes that I wish there were more of.
Yeah. So Dutch, Dan, and Millie go to. They were calling him Chief. I wrote detective, so I'm just gonna call him the detective.
he's a chief detective.
I
There you
100%
go.
forgot there was like a detective in this movie of some kind.
Yeah, well, he doesn't do much, right? So they go and are basically like, hey, well, they do this thing where they're just like, we need to tell you something, and then it just like cuts to them having already told him, and she's like, and that's why we're so upset about it. And so the cop is just obviously doesn't believe them. He's just like, yeah, okay, well, why don't I go over and talk to Sarah and Amos? And they're like, no, and then Dan is like, that's why I don't trust the cops. Like, you're gonna go believe them over us or whatever. The next morning, Philip comes into his kitchen and his forehead is just a little swollen, and he tells his wife that it was a bee sting. This like bee sting joke continues, and I found it pretty funny. It looks just a little concerning. It's just like a little bump at this point. So Sheila approaches Nick at the bar. This is where I wrote her accent's gone. I don't know if she was trying to like pretend like she had an alias or whatever, but she basically tells him that she needs to get a hold of a lot of foreheads, and like, can he make that happen? Like, can we do some deals? And she's like immediately hitting on him also, and he's just kind of like, so Doxy, of course, is like, or Droxy?
It's Droxy.
What a weird Droxy.
I think
also, is that even a real name?
I think that actress might be maybe the wife of the director. Maybe daughter. I'm not sure. It's just she. Oh no, never mind. I thought she had the same last name as him, but it is not. It's Blair.
It's
and
pretty
Graham.
close. Yeah. She's kind of like jealous or whatever, and one of the things that
She's killing it as like this fucking like 50s whatever like stereotype.
yeah,
I feel like
she is.
everyone else is just kind of like doing whatever, but she is going overboard with like the 50s Bronx sort of like accent.
She is doing the most. She's got like the right look too. Like they've done her hair or her like makeup and hair in a really good way that like she looks the part that she's actually playing, unlike everyone else who just kind of is like them, but in like different attire, like period attire or whatever.
She is in only, like at least movie wise, only his movies.
Yeah. Okay, so
We gotta
For
watch
some
Meet the
reason-
Lobsters.
Uh,
Starring
Uh,
a mob from The
Oh.
Sopranos. Holy shit.
We should do a Mob Week, and we'll watch that and Born into Mafia.
Mob Week.
I mean, why don't we just do a whole month of mob movies?
Yeah, Mob Month.
Oh, jeez.
Katie will be dead by the
Mobtober.
end of the week.
Mobtober. So for some reason, Nick already has one of the foreheads in a box, and like I don't know where or why. If he just like picked up the dead one, they don't like explain why he has it, but he already has a forehead, and he shows it to her, and is like, "Here you go. I can get more foreheads if you want, or whatever." And so she's like, "Great, we can work together." So obviously he's gonna hatch a plan to go and get the foreheads off of the cadavers. The detective goes to question Amos and Sarah, and they're very weird to him, but he seems to be satisfied that they're totally normal. Now there's like this scene where Droxy sings a song about foreheads. There's no music playing in the background, but she's just like walking around the bar singing the song about foreheads, and I was
As you
like,
do.
okay, yeah, not weird at all. And then she is trying to bait Dan into bringing her to see the cadavers by saying that she wants to go to medical school, but the thing that's stopping her is that she's never seen a dead body, and her stupid parents were too protective and like weren't considerate to let her see a dead body.
Wouldn't let her go on Best Score.
Yeah. So, meanwhile,
Yeah, they didn't have the internet in whatever time period this was.
I mean, you could go kill someone.
Had to go to the library to find those forehead books. Couldn't even find a Reddit thread on forehead fetishes.
That's
You
right.
think all the books they took out were about forehead fetishes?
100%.
Probably.
What other forehead books are there?
I can't name a single
I
one.
mean, I
so-
looked up forehead books, and it was all just like garbage. Like, would just had forehead
Playboy,
in the
but for
title.
foreheads.
It was like one of them was like a kid's book that was like, you have a frog on your forehead or some bullshit. Like,
Ooh, that's a different corner of the internet, I feel. Droxy singing, right. So now Applethorpe, who is a forehead, and Philip, again, who has just been injected with foreheadazine, so he's becoming smarter, meet, and they both have this like conversation where there is a misunderstanding because Applethorpe thinks that Philip is a forehead also, but Philip thinks that Applethorpe has just been injected, and so they're having this like really vague conversation where they're both like, "Oh, you're in the group too?" And he's like, "Yeah, why wouldn't I be?" And he's like, "Oh, how many of us, whatever." They're like having this like weird conversation, and so Applethorpe is just like, "Hey, well, we're having a meeting tonight, so like, why don't you come to the meeting?" And Philip's like, "All right, cool."
that was easy.
Yeah. At night, Dan has drunk a lot at the bar, and he takes Droxy to the warehouse where the cadavers are. Nick follows behind and attacks Dan as soon as he unlocks the door. Millie and Dutch go looking for Dan because he hasn't shown up, and they find him attacked or whatever. They go and get the detective, and when they go into the warehouse, Dan says that all of the cadaver foreheads are missing.
Upsetting.
Yeah.
I would leave town immediately.
Sounds not great. Philip, meanwhile, Philip goes to the forehead meeting, right? And he sees that there's like an entire group of people, and he is sitting down and he's like looking around and he's like, seems weird. Like, why isn't Sheila here? And, the leader guy, I don't even know like who this character is or like what his name is, but he's essentially like, why would Sheila be here? And he's like looking around and he's like, why does everyone seem so sinister? And they're like, what are you talking about? And they're like talking a little bit. And so Philip seems to realize that like something is kind of off. And he's like, oh, wow, look at the time. I gotta go. The detective goes to see Nick to ask him about foreheads. And that conversation doesn't really go anywhere except, he's like, I don't know anything about it or whatever. Meanwhile, Droxy sneaks in the back and pours something on the foreheads that I couldn't see what it was. And I thought maybe at first she was gonna like destroy them or whatever, but like that doesn't happen.
I
so
assumed she was just pouring like alcohol on them.
Yeah, I don't know. It also like doesn't come back at all, so I'm not really sure.
But she mentions it like it's like before whatever happens to her, where she's just like, "I'm sorry, I ruined all the foreheads."
I don't remember that, but
what a thing to be sorry for.
Philip and oh yeah, because then he's like, call Sheila, because Sheila's been like flirting with him, and Droxy is jealous about it, and she's just like, why did you only give her half of the shipment? Like, why didn't you give her the whole thing? And he's just like, well, because she's thinking it's because he wants to see her again, but he's just like, well, if we wait, she'll think I'm doing a lot of work, and then we'll charge double or whatever. So maybe she was destroying them so like he wouldn't call her again. I don't know. But he's like, call her and tell her I have the rest of them. So Philip, meanwhile, has like left the meeting and goes to Sheila to tell her that like he's worried that if he gets more injections and gets smarter that he'll turn evil.
Yep.
Don't know what's
that.
Yeah. And then he basically tells her that he knows about all of the others, and she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? They don't really finish that conversation at all. Meanwhile, the detective is snooping around the alley behind Nick's bar, and he finds a forehead, and he gets foreheaded. At the library, Dutch, Dan, and Millie go to get the last book there is about foreheads, and while they're looking for the book, Millie is like, oh, there it is. I hope I don't get attacked by anything. And then a forehead immediately attacks her. They wrestle around with it, and then it latches onto Dutch, and they wrestle around with it again, and then they throw it off, and Dan beats it with a book. Then they use masking tape to, like, tape it to the desk, essentially. And now,
Smart.
all of a sudden, it has a mouth and eyes and can talk. Basically, the forehead tells them that they're aliens, there was a war or something, and they could only escape and survive in the atmosphere as foreheads. So they came to Earth, and they're really weak, so they need they need host bodies. And that's why they're like here doing this or whatever. And Dutch is just like, well, why didn't you just ask if you could use our bodies? Like, you didn't have to just take them, you could have just asked. And Dan is like, are you stupid? Like, we wouldn't have given our bodies even if they asked or whatever, because the forehead's like, oh yes, please give us bodies. And he's like, no, we're not gonna do that. That part was pretty funny to me. This is like the only time they talk to the talking forehead, though, so again, I don't really understand why he's different than the other foreheads.
Yeah, it would have been way better if all of the foreheads like talked.
Yeah,
like they should have taken over the bodies and been like, what is talking?
That's exactly, because then it would make them not being able to notice that something was weird, like, even funnier, because it's like they're talking from their forehead, you know? Let's see. So now Philip comes back is at breakfast with his wife, and now his head is like pretty huge and bulbous. And Mary, his wife, is basically just like, I don't know what's going on with you. Like, it's probably not a bee sting, but I don't care, whatever it is. Like, I want to, like, go through it with you, and, like, I'm going to stay by your side or whatever. And he's just like, I have to go do something important.
The idea that it's a bee sting is even funnier the bigger his head gets.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of bees.
Let's see. Dan, Dutch, and Millie take the talking forehead, to the detective, and it immediately attaches to him, and he calls himself, or no, he already has a forehead. I forgot. He got attacked in the alley. He spins around in his chair, and he's like, more like Chief of Forehead Police, which I found funny.
You're alone on that one.
What? Forehead Police is so funny.
Forehead Police would be funny if it was an actual thing.
Half cab. All forehead cops are bastards.
Yeah. It's like, wait, what are you doing there? Your forehead's too big. Let's see. And they all scream and run out. He chases them. Meanwhile, Philip takes the last dose of forhedazine to make him the smartest man in the world. They've all just escaped from the detective, and the detective goes back and tells the rest of the foreheads that they escaped. They call them flatheads.
It's racist.
It's also like, I don't really understand, but he's basically just like, they escaped.
Also, it's not like their heads are round. They also are flatheads. They're just wrinkly.
Right, and I guess it's because their forehead on a forehead, there's kind of like a bump, I think is what they were getting at, but still, stupid. Could have been better.
Everybody in this movie should look like the dude at the end of it. Just the biggest fucking head you've ever
bulbous,
seen.
bulbous worm head.
With like crazy tufts of hair sticking out. Very strange. So, oh my gosh, what?
The forehead.
Oh. This is
Has your forehead become too full of knowledge?
Yeah. My
Can't
forehead
find where you were.
Is too much foreheaded. This is when they're all having the meeting about how they can try and make their selves not as noticeable, because they're bumpy and they're not bumpy. You know, like normal people don't have a bumpy forehead, but they're very much a bumpy forehead, and they're basically talking about what they should do. Sarah suggests that they should wear vertical stripes or bright colors because it distracts from the size of their forehead.
It literally should have cut to a scene of them all wearing vertical stripes.
Right. Instead, somebody else asks what hard candy is, and then somebody else says, "Oh, isn't that the same as eggs?" And someone else is like, "No, that's an elevator." And I was like, "What is this joke?"
Dude,
I had no idea what was going on here.
I blocked all of this out of my memory because I just remember vertical stripes and then the hats.
Bad. So then, this is when the Reverend, who's been the one that's talking, reveals that the thing that makes this so funny, and he's just like, "What is normal headgear that every human wears?" And they're like, "I don't know." He's like, "Check under your seats," and they pull out pillbox hats.
Yeah, with the little fucking like lace thing or whatever on the front.
Yeah, so if you don't know what a pillbox hat, because it's like not a thing anymore, it is a very small round hat for women.
Google forehead fetish, and
no,
you'll find it.
Probably not.
First result.
With like a
every
little
time.
veil, and like to their point, the veil does cover their foreheads pretty nicely, like obscuring the fact that there's a bump. But it's like everybody's wearing this tiny little pillbox hat.
The one joke in the movie that I was like, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Because then like after that, they're all wearing these hats that like don't cover their forehead at all, except that there's just like a see-through veil covering it.
It's just like netting. It's very funny. So Mary goes to see Philip because, he like left or whatever, and she goes to basically like argue with Sheila about how like he's my husband, I'm gonna stand by him no matter what, like he doesn't need you. And Sheila's kind of just like, "Oh, you're too stupid to love him. He's so smart. He's gonna be the smartest man in the world, and I'm the only one that's like suited to like be with him or whatever." But then Philip comes out of the closet, and his head is huge. His entire head is multiple foreheads.
And they both like take off screaming.
They both scream and run. Well, and because essentially Mary screams and runs. Sheila.
I take it back. Another good joke is him doing the same thing, where like he's eventually just like, "I scared myself and had to scream and run away."
Mary like screams and runs away. Sheila basically like is like, "Oh no, like no one's capable of loving you," and then randomly reveals that she is blind And he's like, I've seen you drive. Like, what do you mean? Or whatever. And she's just like, oh, no, like, I've been blind since I was young. I've developed powers in my forehead to, like, compensate for the fact that I'm blind, which makes no sense and goes nowhere. I don't really understand. But then she basically says that, like, he's a monster that no woman could love, even though he is a genius. He just looks so scary. Nobody could love him. This is when he looks in the mirror and screams and runs out. And it's like a running bit. They'll keep cutting to him, like running through a field screaming or like running through wherever screaming. Goes on for a little bit.
That scream that he does from like way off camera toward like as he's running towards the camera that takes like, I don't know, a minute and a half. Pretty good. Got some good lung capacity.
Yeah. So then so Sheila's like still in the lab, and then a forehead comes for her, and she's like, Nick, what did you give me? You've ruined everything. And I was like, what? Because it's one of the alien foreheads, not one of the cadaver foreheads. This is when finally all of the foreheads in the town go marching to find the last of the people who are not foreheads, which is just Dan, Dutch, and Millie. Dan reads that there's like this whole scene with them like looking through books in the library or whatever, and finally Dan reads that foreheads don't like loud noises, especially bells. So people with really big foreheads especially don't like loud noises.
It checks out.
Fair.
Makes sense. I remember reading that in grade school.
Droxy
and one of the 300 books about foreheads in your public library.
Yeah, the forehead section.
Yeah. Fiction, non-fiction.
Some of those pages were really sticky, though.
Yeah,
gross.
upsetting.
Yeah. Now you know why. Droxy goes to the bar and is kind of like making fun of Nick about the foreheads for whatever reason, and she asks if he went to Browse R Us. I don't really understand, like the foreheads do not have eyebrows. It's like the part above your brow to the forehead, so I don't really understand all the brow jokes.
Your hair is the eyebrows of the forehead.
That checks out.
I don't
I have no choice but to agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't prove that wrong.
That is a fair statement. I cannot prove it wrong. And then it's revealed, obviously, that Nick is the one that has the talking forehead for some reason. I don't know how he got it or like whatever.
Luck of the draw.
She says something like, she's basically like trying to downplay what's happening, and she's like, oh great, yeah, I was always saying it'd be so great if Nick had a forehead mouth. And the term forehead mouth was pretty funny to me.
It's upsetting. Don't like that.
Philip has stopped screaming, is sitting under a tree, and basically contemplates how... Oh my god, please stop. Sorry, my family group thing is like exploding, and it is really driving me crazy. Okay, muted. We had a scare the other night, so I unmuted it, and I forgot, and now it's literally driving me insane. There's no way that there need to be 15 text messages right now.
Oh my god.
Was there a forehead attack happening? Was that the scare?
Maybe somebody came out about their forehead fetish.
Yeah, they just discovered forehead fetishes.
Be honest, you know somebody in your life that you suspect would be into foreheads.
Yeah, one of them's on this podcast right now.
Dun dun.
Okay, yeah. Philip.
A remake of The Thing, but someone in the Arctic is into foreheads. Could be any one of us.
I love that. Philip contemplates being stupid again.
The dude was a scientist. How stupid was he before he took this stuff?
Right. And like it also there's also like no reason for him to be, except for that what's his face is like, ew, you're ugly, but he's like being very pontificating about being ignorantly bliss and etc etc. Then he looks down and sees like, you know, a slab of forehead moving, and he goes, oh, it was aliens the whole time, not science. So he runs back into town. This is when Dan, Dutch, and Millie have covered themselves in bells, and they're basically just like standing out in the open, like with the bells on, and all of the foreheads come around the corner, you know, wearing their little pillbox hats, and they're basically just like, we're not gonna hide, take off your disguises, which is just them taking their hats off, and they start to walk towards them, and they just start jingling around. They're literally just like flailing their bodies around with like bells everywhere on them, and they're like, just keep jingling. The foreheads freak out, they do not like the sound, and they start staggering away, and so they like stop jingling, and they're like, oh great, it's working. And then the foreheads just turn around and start coming back, so they start like jingling again and stuff. For some reason, Mary is also there. I don't know where she was this whole time, but now she's here. The foreheads all come back with, and so they're jingling, but it's not working because they've got earplugs in now. Smart.
Yeah.
And they are basically like, oh, well, they can still hear the vibrations, so like keep going, but it's like not strong enough. And there's this like scene where the forehead people are, when I say forehead, it's literally like the people in the town with like the extra forehead on their head, right? So they're like slowly pulling the bells and stuff off of Dan, Dutch, and Millie. Millie's like, no, our bells, they're ripping off our bells. Like, they've got the scene set up almost
Cruel
as if it's like a zombie thing where they're being like ravaged, but it's just like somebody taking a bell off their neck or whatever. Because they don't really do anything to them. There's like no extra foreheads anywhere, so I don't really know what the plan was. But essentially, Dan is like, oh, I've got an idea, and there's two payphones next to each other, and he's like, Dutch, tell me what that payphone number is. So he puts money in a payphone and calls the other payphone, so the ringing starts, and they don't like the ringing. But then Philip shows up. Somebody answers the phone or something stupid, and he's like, oh, man, I can't call again because I don't have any more money. And Philip shows up and uses his money to call the other phone. But also, like, his foreheads are so big that, like, he doesn't like the sound of the ringing either, and it's, like, hurting him. So Mary's like, no, Philip, I love you. Sorry I ran away because you were so hideous, but in my heart I still love you. And so she, like, answers the phone to save him, and then he, like, I don't know, philosophizes about being a screaming forehead. He says the term screaming forehead like many times in his like little speech, and essentially like his speech is like him saying that like I don't even know, who the fuck cares. Eventually what ends up happening is that Philip pulls a fire alarm, and Mary's like, no, Philip, and all of them start like freaking out, and I kind of like looked away and looked back up only to see Daniel Roebuck like just disappear. So I think they all disappeared. Like their whole bodies just disappeared into like static-y something, which I don't really understand.
Science.
God, I wish that were me.
Yeah. Me and who.
Philip, just Philip's big head vanishes and he falls on the ground. And
upsetting.
Then
I would be very upset if I took all that like fucking foreheadazine and then it just went away.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't seem to want to be this smart anymore or whatever. He also doesn't really do anything that leads me to believe he's any smarter, because like whenever he's like doing his like philosophizing or whatever, he doesn't like say anything. It's just like still, I don't know, because I'm just not smart enough to understand philosophy. The four of them all say kind of stuff that's like survivors at the end of the movie or whatever. And they're like, yeah, and all thanks to that. Oh, so they start calling them either bubbleheads or not bubbleheads. Which bubblehead or flathead.
If you have a normal forehead, you're a flathead.
And then one of
them
says...
Which seems rude still.
I know. Like, they're just... I don't know. Whatever. And so one of them says, like, oh, thank God for bubblehead. And then Mary goes, that's no bubblehead. That's my husband. And then it's the end. And then we get like a scrolling video of them introducing the cast, and the cast is all kind of just doing like, zany stuff, which I like that kind of thing in a movie. With the Screaming Forehead song again, and that's the end.
Yeah, there's a post-credit scene of one of the Foreheads getting in a spaceship and leaving.
I only saw there was one where there's like a guy at a bar and he's like, how do I get my credit? How do I get my credit? And then after that, Tubi did that thing where it like skipped to something else, so I didn't get to see anything else. But...
Yeah, you just see one of the Foreheads like doing that weird crawl thing into a spaceship, and then it like takes off or whatever. So sequel coming. Again,
what mystery?
20 years later.
I still don't understand because, like, why did their bodies disappear? Like, where are they?
We're gonna find out in the sequel, 2028.
The town's not saved.
It's time.
2028.
Yeah, every 20 years we get a new Forehead movie.
Wow.
It's like it.
Yeah. We're gonna get a full like dark reimagining of Trail of the Screaming Forehead.
2028 will be Trial of the Screaming Forehead.
Yeah. The one that's still alive has to go on trial. Space trial.
Back on its home planet.
I'm gonna say don't watch this.
Yeah, it's not good.
I feel like if you were really into that like early sci-fi kind of like, cutesy is not the right word, but like those kind of like sitcom-y sci-fi things, like I think that maybe those kind of people would enjoy it, but like I don't know.
Wereskeedo is a much better version of this thing.
I agree.
I got real good news for Kit. Terrifier 2 coming back to theaters for a second time in November.
Oh,
Jesus Christ.
Just wringing that fucking thing
dry. Milk that thing dry.
That's like the only news I saw this week. And I was like, nope. No, thank you.
It's good news for Kit. That guy has a pretty big forehead.
What guy?
The clown.
The clown guy.
Art.
Gonna get Pee Wee Herman the theater watching Art the Clown.
Katie, did you see any news?
No, because I tried to go to the website and there was like a fucking video pop up that I could not exit out of. So I said, you know what? Fuck your news. I'm not even looking at your articles.
Fair.
I was getting so upset. I don't want to watch whatever your stupid trailer is. But I'm gonna guess probably not really.
Yeah, I didn't see like anything on the thing I look at. All right, Kit, what did you watch in the last 2 weeks?
Hold on, let me pull up my letterbox. It's the only way I know.
Yeah,
my brain is fucking spaghetti. My forehead's not big enough.
Yeah, we gotta get bigger foreheads. Smallest foreheaded podcast in the world.
Yeah. All right, let's see.
I think our foreheads seem proportionate.
Did I talk about To Live and Die in L.A. last time we recorded?
No, I think the last time we all recorded together was right after Friedkin died, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. So To Live and Die in L.A., fucking incredible. What a sick film.
Yeah, it's so good.
A+.
I haven't seen that
super
in
rad.
like forever. I really need to give that a rewatch.
I bought it blind and, threw it on whatever weekend that was. And just like, why have I gone my whole life not watching this? I've been wanting to watch it for years now. And it's never been available, like, to watch on a streaming service. And, Kino Lorber finally put out like a really nice Blu-ray and 4K of it, so I was like, fuck it, and I bought it. So worth it. I watched Last Voyage of the Demeter, which was fine.
Yeah, like I'm like slightly interested in that, but I'm also just like I also don't care about this like one-page story turned into like a full movie.
It could have been cool, but
I
I don't know. That didn't mesh with me.
I think the
I
premise
don't.
is good, but like not for probably what I'm assuming is close to 2 hours.
Well, it was an hour and a
Hour
half.
and a half. That still seems too long for that story. Like
Yeah.
like the
I don't know how. Every time they come out with like you're stuck on some kind of vessel with a vampire, I feel like I'm always like, how could this be bad? How do you mess it up? And then it's always like, it's fine.
uh, Kept up the Friedkin, watching The Guardian, another fucking banger about a weird tree lady who's trying to abduct a child, and the tree like murders a
Ooh.
shitload of people. Super sick.
I'm in.
Highly recommended. Then Death Magic, about a bunch of teens who resurrect a Civil War general who gets mad at them having sex and murders all of them.
Oh,
Also pretty good.
fair.
Did you buy that or did you stream that somewhere?
I bought it.
I was wondering. I saw that. Was Culture Shock put that out? I forget.
Yeah.
Like I remember seeing that and I was like, oh, this is interesting. Maybe I'll like blind buy this, and then just like I ended up getting something else.
Worth getting, I think.
Maybe during this,
Also,
see what their sale
bonus.
this upcoming week.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Bonus points for the cover picture making the dude look like Will Forte. Then I watched Miss 45 by Abel
Oh,
Ferrara.
so good.
Sick as hell.
It's so good.
Uh,
Like that's like one of the, I guess, rare sort of like rape revenge movies that I feel like does it like really, really well.
yeah, it's not like super cringe about
Yeah.
everything.
It's like somehow wild that the movie about a woman who is like assaulted twice in the same day is like less horrendous than like most other like ones. I don't know.
Yeah.
Very good. She's so good in that movie.
Oh yeah, incredible. Not incredible. I watched The Flash. Absolute fucking
Well,
turd of a film.
spoiler,
Oh my
Katie
god.
and I may be recording an episode on that this week.
Oh god.
I
Good luck to y'all.
haven't watched,
Have y'all watched
not
it yet?
I'm
No.
dreading it.
I unfortunately like logged into Max for something, and I saw that it was on there, and I was just like, Nathan, The Flash is free, and he was like, do we have to do an episode? And I was like, unfortunately, I think we do. So we will, but no.
I'm excited
Well-
to see the Michael Keaton stuff, and that's it.
Mm.
And I
It,
feel like it's probably not going to be worth.
no, not at all. Like it was. He's fine in it, but it's 2.5
Yeah.
hours of like just the worst shit. Like visually, the worst shit you've ever seen. Like everything looks so fake and bad, and like 10 minutes in, I was like, this is the dumbest fucking movie I've ever seen already. Because it opens with like a bunch of babies falling out of a building, so there's a slow-mo like 5-minute sequence of him running up and trying to get all these babies in a line, and
I'm so
Awful.
mad because when they originally announced it, like Flashpoint is one of my favorite comic book storylines.
yeah,
And then I saw the trailer and I was like, this isn't fucking Flashpoint. What the fuck is this?
it's incredible that their whole marketing thing, like out of the gate, was the best superhero movie ever made. It's like, oh no,
Woof.
bro,
Yeah.
this is
This
really
this
bad.
is not Dolph Lundgren Punisher. What are you doing?
Yeah, so yeah, do not recommend. Shit sucks.
Perfect.
Back to Incredible, I watched a movie called Demon Seed about an AI some dude is working on that takes over a house and impregnates a woman so she can give birth to a cyber child.
I think I've
Perfect.
seen that.
banger. It's so absurd.
The
It's
70s movie? Yeah, I have seen this.
And like the body of the AI is like a weird giant golden Rubik's cube that I don't understand how they operated in the 70s, and it like captures a man and just squeezes his head off. Slaps.
Yeah, it rocks.
Then I watched our favorite boys, the Polonias, their OG film Feeders, which is the best Polonias thing by a mile.
Yeah, I always
from
hear
what I've seen.
I always hear that I would probably like that, but I'm always like, I'm not. I gotta be in a very specific headspace, I think, to watch it.
It's the good kind of shot on video where like all of the acting is the right kind of awful. The little alien dude effects are so awesomely stupid.
It really feels like once they like latched on to like CGI is when it like goes downhill.
Yeah, downhill. But mad respect to them for destroying at least 2 aliens that they made for this film, which is incredibly bold when your budget's like $20. And yeah, that was it.
Hell yeah. Alright, what about you, Katie? What have you watched the last, 3 days?
Nothing.
Alright. I was waiting to talk about this till Kit was on. Cop Image from 1994. Fucking...
What?
Absolute banger. It's the one I told you about with Anthony Wong.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Shane ended up watching it after I told him about it, and he was like, this is the best movie. It's like reductive to say like Herman Yau's like Hot Fuzz, because it's not at all like the same thing, but it's that very much that like this is like my ode to like 90s action movies or whatever, which is funny because it was 1994, but they're like they like actively reference like Lethal Weapon and fucking License to Kill and like all of these like wild 90s movies. Anthony Wong fucking killing it. Like every time he's like making a point to somebody as like this guy who's like pretending to be a cop, he's doing the like takes off the glasses to like make a point, and he does it so much. It rocks. It's so good. I watched Cut and Run for the first time, the Ruggero Deodato movie with Michael Berryman in it. It was pretty good. Claudio Simonetti score in it. It was a fucking banger. And then I watched Invaders of the Lost Gold, and it was bad. Very boring.
That's the worst.
Yeah, like I was like trying to find something sort of like that I didn't fully need to pay a lot of attention to, and that was the right movie because it was real boring. And then I started rewatching 30 Rock. That's pretty much what I've been doing. Alright. Shout outs, Katie.
Not hurricanes.
Chocolate Rocks.
Chocolate Rocks, for sure. We also just got, I feel like that, I don't really know if this is like a mainstream snack or not, but Bugles. They just came out with like ranch, like Hidden Valley Ranch flavored Bugles, and they're pretty good. As someone who's like not super into, like, ranch is not my favorite, but they're pretty good. I like a Bugle.
Bugles are good. I don't know if I would want a ranch one though.
Yeah.
Kit, would you rather jump into a vat of Heinz yellow mustard or mayo?
Yeah, sorry, now
that was one,
we have to ask Kit all of the questions from the Q&A.
That was one of Dylan's questions from the Q&A.
I'm really torn, because I feel like physically the mustard's going to feel better, because it's, like, less thick. But I'd rather accidentally get the mayo in my mouth than the mustard.
Or,
you know?
like,
So
in your eyes.
I was going to say, I picked mustard because I hate mayonnaise, but then I did also say, like, I feel like the mustard might sting. either
Yeah.
your eyes or your body. So I don't know.
Got any open wounds?
Right. And then we talked about condiments for like 20 minutes. So
We deep dived condiments.
We
All right, Kit, what's your shout out?
I'm gonna shout out Hooch because it's his birthday today.
Hey,
Aw, happy birthday.
finally.
I mean, like, quote unquote
Yeah.
birthday, because I had to make one up for him, but I forgot this is the one I chose when I took him to the vet for the first time. So I got an email from the vet saying, "Happy birthday, Hooch," and I was like, "Oh, happy birthday, Hooch."
Yeah, Maytal is like sometime in the fall, maybe September, and I feel like at one point I picked a birthday for her and I don't remember what it was. So usually by the time it's like Thanksgiving, I'm like, yay, Maytal's the next year older, because they just like
Right.
She was a stray, so we don't really know, but
I think we usually just like. I think Lex is just the day Caitlin like adopted him. I think is what we usually
Yeah.
like. I think it's like we usually just say like New Year's Day or something like that.
right.
What's my shout out? Fuck it, 30 Rock, I guess. 90 Day Fiance before the 90 days. Killing it this season.
Oh my
Ooh.
god. Fucking Christian's such a piece of shit. Fuck that
Yeah.
guy.
I forget, is that Other Way or Before the 90 Days? There's currently 3 seasons airing right now, and I forget which is which.
That one is before
Okay.
with Christian
He
and
fucking
Gino,
sucks.
who also
Gino,
sucks.
have you watched this week's episode yet?
Yeah.
Oh my god, him and like Gino and Jasmine just fucking yelling at each other in the talking head thing.
Fucking
Insane. It's so good. That means The Other Way is the one that's like fucking wild this season. Like with the dude that's getting
with the
catfished.
dude losing all his money in
Oh,
crypto and
And like fucking, and he says that, and I was like, I know this was shot in like February or March, like well past,
Yeah.
fucking, like a year past crypto being worth anything. It's like I'd fucking put $40,000 into crypto. Like,
their honeymoon money. Oh my god.
what a fucking king! That's my shout out every week. 90 Day Fiance.
After saying she would look like a prostitute if she wore whatever
She
dress.
wore a dress.
Yeah,
Wow.
any dress. What a guy.
Oh man, fucking
Cool show.
very good. Honestly, best show on TV. Now King of the Hill's not on TV. Best show on TV.
Yep.
All right. Next week for our 5-year anniversary.
Wow.
I think that'll be next week. We're gonna do Toxic Avenger.
Yeah.
Old
Wow.
Toxie. Katie, have you seen this?
I'm not sure actually.
Perfect.
Like, if I have, it's been. We'll just see.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
You've never avenged toxically.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
We gotta get in there before Peter Dinklage one comes out.
I've avenged, but I'm not sure if it was toxically or not. So we'll find out.
Have you also crusaded Toxically?
Yes.
All right, good. Yeah, that's on Tubi. So, and you could probably find fucking rips of it on YouTube. It's
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Highly recommend. Actually, a good movie. All right, if you'd like to support us, you could join our Patreon at patreon.com/IUPSufferPodcast. I guess Katie and I are going to talk about The Flash soon. My only goal is that it's worse than Morbius. That's my only hope.
There's literally no way, in my mind, that it's not.
Yeah.
So.
Kid, now you have to watch Morbius.
I feel pretty confident it's better than The Flash.
I like Morbius. I feel like you would just be like, I don't know, it's kind of boring. But it's at least
Yeah.
like 90 minutes.
Flash isn't really boring because every time something
You're
happens
just like,
on
what
screen,
the
it's just
fuck?
like, Jesus Christ, how much money did they spend for it to look this bad?
Every single thing I've seen out of context, I'm like, there's no way this even makes sense in context.
Right.
No. Fucking, oh my god, Nick Cage.
Oh yeah, it looks
The-
so shitty.
Quote unquote Nick Cage. Because it's not really
Yeah.
Nick Cage. They did the same thing that they did with Christopher Reeve, and they're like, oh, maybe Nick Cage is dead, and we'll just put his face on a PlayStation 2 guy.
Oh, it looks so bad.
Oh
I
my
can't wait.
Fuck.
You can buy merch at our storefront tier. You can leave us a rating and review on iTunes and Spotify. Follow Kit at Hidden Kitstery and Kitrification of Blood. Follow Katie at Werewolf Face. You can join Katie's Patreon at patreon.com/werewolfface. You can listen to my other podcast, AK Movie Club. I think we might do an episode soon on Ghost. Caitlin's gonna make me watch Ghost
Ooh.
again.
Good.
No, thank you.
And listen to Ghost.
Yeah,
While listening
yeah.
to
Well, yeah. We're
Ghost.
gonna play Ghost the entire time in the background, so that
Oh,
the episode
man.
gets,
Good
gets
idea.
flagged for copyright and taken down.
The movie Ghost would be so much better with Papa as the
Yeah.
as the
Whoopi
Swayze
Goldberg.
character.
I was gonna say, just the characters.
It's
are
got to
all-
he's got to be like the weird
They're all
psychic
Papa.
character.
Yeah.
All right, go watch Toxic Avenger for next week. Watch all 4 of them, although says the Toxie. Not great. Rewatch that, whatever I got, that fucking Blu-ray set that I still have to mail to Kit. And it did not hold up for me. 2 and 3, still good though, because they're cheap in Japan. And the Toxic Avenger looks like shit in it, because it's just like, it looks like a dude with a big plastic mask on his head.
What more could you
Yeah.
want?
And he fights a dolphin person in one of them, which obviously is
Oh.
very good. But we're not going to do that one. We're going to talk about the first one, where a child gets his head run over.
Can't wait.
All right, I hope you are
Scream.
attracted to foreheads, but why?
Oh.